I am never, ever, 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 never, never, ever, never, never, never going to give them a copy of my Xactimate estimate unless they've already signed with me. If they want to see it, because some people on the phone, they're like, well, I can let you come out for an estimate. Well, are you going to give me an estimate? Everybody that comes out, they always want my paperwork from me, right? I'm willing to do an estimate if that's what it's going to take, okay? And I'll pick up my laptop and hand it to them and let them hold it and roll around with it for 4 hours if they want to, but they don't get a copy of it until they sign my contract. Why is that, Chad? Well, good question, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. It's just company policy, to be quite honest with you. And it's because, you know, that Xactimate estimate is not the contract. That is nothing more than a tool that is utilized that will help to unlock the proper amounts of the claim. You have to back up from 30,000 feet and realize they've never done this before. You got to break it down for them. And if they've already been exposed to the other yahoos that you're competing with, it's like promising them to send them to freaking Hawaii, you know, much less waiving their deductible. You know what I mean? Like you gotta understand who you're dealing with here. So I don't need their paperwork. I understand that they have been through that and they feel like, you know, they feel a little bit maybe even intimidated by that. But I have a way for them to not only give me their paperwork, but like shove it in my face and beg me to take it. I'm seriously, you'll see in a minute. You gotta understand, like, your posture is like, you know, I'm moving forward. I'm a train that always moves forward. I'm not gonna stop really for you. I'm definitely not going back for you, you know, but because I'm successful. People are always trying to catch up with me. You know what I mean? So I'm not desperate for your business. I have to keep my ways of doing things at a high level, regardless of what you think. And I'm not gonna sacrifice my standards for you, your mother, or anybody else.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
In the case where they do that, or they say, no, I see damage to the soft metals, right? I see that there's damage to the actual soft metals, like I can see damage to the pipe jacks, I can see damage to like some of the flashing or whatever, maybe the vents, you know, but I don't see any damage at all to the shingles. Okay, well, what about the damage to the soft metals though? That's direct physical damage. That has to be replaced. If it's directly damaged by hail or anything else, it has to be removed and replaced, just the soft metals. Yeah, but that doesn't even add up to the deductible. So why bother? Well, maybe so, but the problem with that, Mr. Adjuster, is that my job is to perform all repairs that are prescribed by you. So can you just write it up anyway? You know what I mean? Because like I have to have the prescription from you. I have to be able to have a prescription to follow for my contract. So can you write it up? Whether it reaches a level of deductible or not, we still need you to write it up. Does that make sense? And so then he writes up the prescription, and anybody that knows anything about roofing, right? If we have to remove a pipe jack or a vent or anything like that, how many shingles do we have to remove all around it? You know what I mean? Quite a few. Or if they have said we have to remove and replace 8 shingles, well, if we have to remove and replace 8 shingles, how many shingles do we really have to replace? Once we get into it, we got to do all around it, right? And by the way, when we remove those shingles, is the deck up to code? Is it wet right there? Is it wet right there? Is it broken right there? Is the deck non-nailable sheathing? Is it water saturated, water soaked in any way? You know what I mean? Because if it is, that part of the deck has to be cut out. And is the deck up to code? Is it? Is it ½ inch? If it's ½ inch, depending on where it's at, it's not up to code. You see what I mean? And so now we've got to bring the whole deck up to code. But we've only got one spot. How many pipe jacks do we have? You know what I mean? How many areas do we have? Just following their prescription gets us into more things. You see what I mean? So there's lots of things I can do. In this case, I can get there 100 different ways, you know, but there's direct physical damage. There's all kinds of different things going on here, right? Let me go through the rest of it here.
When you measure, well, do you measure how wet decking is? Is there some?
Yeah, so like I use thermal imaging, infrared cameras, handheld devices, FLIRs, right? But if I can see water spot, just a picture of it will suffice. 100% of the time, right? I said I inspect every room, closet, and hallway. The reason why I do that, and I just carry like a mini mag light to do it, and I'm looking at the ceilings more than anything, because I always find a water spot. If it's a roof deal, which all of you guys are here, which is good to know, man, if you just will do this little thing, it's not hard. You don't have to go to any class to do this. Mini mag light, inspect every room, closet, and hallway, and the attic. Then if we can see the wet spots on the deck, that's it. It's done. We at least have to cut the deck open, at least in that area. And then is the deck up to code? Are the rafters up to code? You can go as far as you want to go with codes. Like if you really know, you guys, I'm assuming, could rebuild the whole truss, rafters, the whole 9 yards, right? Like the back of your hand, right? And you're going to know probably more than most what it's going to really take to get that done. You know what I mean? And are the rafters, are the spans correct? Is everything up to code? But you can't get there unless you have water spots where it starts to create those problems. So I'm going to inspect every room, closet, and hallway. I'm always going to find a water spot. I'm always going to inspect that deck, right? As much as I possibly can. Let me just go through this real quick. Now, a couple of things. If I go out to any inspection, say I'm going out just to meet the first time, like you're meeting the client and you're going out to do the inspection, I want to let them know before I come, I intend to inspect every room, closet, and hallway, Mr. and Ms. Jones. It'd probably take me 2 to 3 hours actually, and that way they know about it. At my house, not just my wife, but me too, I would need to know about that before I want somebody just rooting through my whole house, every room, and am I going to be there for that long? By the way, you do want both parties there, so make sure they know about it. And just so you know, you're probably thinking, how am I going to do that? If you're used to doing 5 appointments, it's not going to work. You're going to have to change it up if you care about doing it this way. Here's some incentive to do it though, because if you do it that way, think about this. They a lot of times will want to compare you to 2 other contractors or whatever. They might have a choice of people knocking on their doors. Who else in the world is ever going to do it that way? You know what I mean? And after you've done it that way, is there any chance they're going to sign with that other person? So my philosophy is educate the client. Literally open up your hood and give them everything. Show them why you're doing everything you're doing. Teach them why. Versus, man, I don't like the client knowing the numbers and knowing why, because then they start getting big eyes and they start wanting to get the money for themselves and all that. There's a lot of people like that. But most of the time they start from that position because they don't know any better. So they think they have to go find a contractor to do the job for the amount on their insurance paperwork. So like that client, for example, probably thought in the very beginning, I have to go find a contractor that's going to come put this whole place back together for $36,000, roof and all. In fact, they went and did the roof. I think they ended up paying like $25,000 for it, which was a lot more than what the insurance company even approved. And there was no going back. They did up it because of the price list changing. And when they revised my estimate, the roof was already on there. And just by the price list changing, because the prices change every month with Xactimate. And by the way, back to that adjuster scenario, where they send all those adjusters out there in the big hurry to get all the adjusters there, state requirements require they have to be there within so many days after the claim is filed, and they have to make payment within I don't know what that amount is here, or really any state. I don't focus on things like that. It doesn't concern me. I know it's fast, right? But that's one reason why they're in a big hurry. The other reason is because that estimate was written based on the pricing before the hurricane even came. You know what I mean? The next month, those prices were through the roof. So the insurance companies are in a big hurry to get out there and write the estimates in a big hurry based on what the prices are now. And then next month they change. Like back in the day, they updated every quarter. So I would literally have to wait for months. And sometimes they would do an emergency price list increase, But I would wait for months and do the TARP, but don't do any estimates at all with any insurance companies until that happens, right? So anyway, back to this. I believe every client should have to qualify to do business with me, not the other way around. Amen. So with everyone in this room, I implore you, I feel it strongly in my heart as I'm older now, and when I was younger, it was all about the here and now, That's how I got in trouble, to be honest with you. I wanted everything so fast. But I implore you guys that to look at every client that way. They should have to qualify to do business with you. You should not have to qualify to do business with them. You're the expert. You're the authority. You already know that, right? And so but they should have to qualify big. Think about it. We don't even ask them for a copy of their ID on 6-figure projects. We don't. Most people don't. I had a guy the other day who goes, oh no, we do. We run them through this thing. He goes, that's because we got burned bad. You know what I mean? He got burned, so now he's checking ID. But we don't even do a credit check on them on 6-figure projects. But you guys might do in retail maybe so that they can raise the money, but you don't do that part, right? I mean, but we don't do, to go into Best Buy, if I want to go and get this on, credit or whatever, man, they want everything from me. But on 6-figure deals, we don't ask them for anything. So we don't look up the public records, which are available. Their mortgage is probably public information. We could probably find out they have a mortgage before we even go out there. More than likely we can. We can find out the terms in their mortgage. It's right there. It's public information. The owner of that address is public information, the actual owners. We know who we're dealing with at least, who we're supposed to be dealing with. Is it a renter? Is it the owner? I want to know these things before I go out there, So I just think I want to run them through a series of things. Here's another thing that I normally do later, but I'm going to go out of place again. Here's 5 questions to ask them before going out there. So like me, I would spend a great deal of time on the phone with them before ever going out there. Because I don't want to waste my time going out there and providing my specialized skill to them, okay, unless I know I'm going to the right place. And also, I'm real proud of my 80 to 90+% closing ratios because I'm a numbers guy and I want to keep that intact. And I know the way to protect that closing ratio is to only go to the places where I'm supposed to go. And I think a lot of us, somebody calls up on the phone, we're in the truck, we're like, yeah, we ask them their name, we got their number on the caller ID. Is your number, best number? Okay, where's the address? Okay, well, I could probably be there about 4 o'clock. Is that a good time for you, And what else you got out there? Roof? Okay, gutter? Okay. Yeah, no, I'll come out and we do a lot of jobs in that neighborhood. I'll come out. You're in a hurry to get them off the phone so in case they change their mind or something. You don't want it to go sour because in your mind, you go out there and something might happen. It might lead to something. Man, get rid of that nonsense. That's just my opinion, because for me, time is my most valuable asset. And time, believe me, is money. So back to the landscaping days when I had 40 employees doing, thinking I knew everything, people would say, time is money, Chad, time is money. I'd be like, oh, duh, I know. These guys are on hourly. I know the clock is running. I get it. Time is money. I know everything already, Look, let's just say that I build a job every week, the same kind of a job. Let's say it's like a prefab or a spec'd out job, like an outbuilding or a shed, for example, just to keep it simple, okay? Something outdoors somewhere, right? But it's the same size, same materials, I'm using the same subs, buying the same stuff, and I do this once every single week, okay? But I'm subbing it out, and so doesn't matter how long they take, I'm just paying them one rate, right? And my materials, same stuff. And let's say I do this every week, one of these every week, and every time I complete it, I profit, after all that's said and done, $5,000, just to keep it nice and simple and round numbers here, right? Now, it takes me a week to do. So if you came to me and asked me, hey, Chad, how much do you make for a living, right? Then I could easily sum that up and say, well, I can tell you that. I make about $5,000 a week, right? And I explain to you why, like I just did with you. But you're smarter than me, you know what I mean? Which chances are you are. And you say, but Chad, what happens when it rains or something and it takes 2 weeks to do that job? How much money do you make then? Well, yeah, it doesn't change, right? Because of the same amount with the subs. But how much do I make per week then? I don't make $5,000 a week anymore. I make $2,500. So my income is slashed in half. And I didn't even realize it really, because I'm living in this sub everything out contractor head world, right? And I don't even see that. I don't see that. But literally, my income was slashed in half just by the fact that it took me twice as long. That's how time is money, how it impacts. Now take that times 20 jobs, or times a job that's 20 times the size, and we've got a real problem, an emergency actually, on our hands. So when we're taking longer to go through the appraisal process or through the PA, I had a guy tell me, you know what, I don't care how long it takes me. I don't, I'm getting them to pay 900% of the original every single time, and I don't care if it takes 9 months, 12 months, I'll wait as long as it takes. Okay, but you stretch that income out over the 12 months and you're not seeing it. It's not clear to you, but you're not making very much money for that job. Not to mention your client is pissed. You know what I mean? And I don't think we're looking at that number one either, So that's my concept of the time is money, right? So the 5 questions to ask them before I even go out. I want to explain to them how I work. I want them to know that my job, actually, the thing that I like to be hired to do is to perform all repairs for the that are prescribed by the insurance company. The thing I find, it's not the prices that we have a problem with, because we're using the same software as your insurance company, right? More than likely, we're using the same exact pricing software. So their price per square on roofing is the same price for our stuff, right? By the way, I'm going to get sidetracked again. It's okay. It's value. Trust me. The idea of per square on a roof, like to charge someone per square on a roof, please, again, I implore you, I'm not going to tell you to do something or don't do something. I implore you to get rid of that concept. The idea of price per square is lunacy, okay? It's just lunacy. So like to think, man, I don't like this insurance company. They only pay me such per square. Or in this market, they only pay such and such per square. And Chad, you have no idea what it's like here, brother, because here, man, we only get such and such per square. I think you're all crazy for saying that. You're even talking like that, okay? Let me explain, right? Let me explain. Look, roof A, roof B, both of them 30 squares, identical in size, okay? So they're the same cost per square, right? Wrong. Wrong. My retail guys right away. No, they're not. You know what I mean? How do we know that? Look at the material orders, 288 linear feet here on roof A. Roof B has 124 linear feet, right? Roof A has 88 linear feet of valley. Roof B has no valley. Roof A is 2-story. Roof B is 1-story. Roof A is a 12-12 pitch. Roof B is a walkable 6 pitch, right? Roof A has a chimney. Roof B has no chimney, flashing, right? Roof A has a chimney cap. Like I said, roof B has no chimney. We can go on. We got skylights on roof A, no skylights. We have 12 pipe jacks, only 4 pipe jacks. 8 vents, only 4. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, if we're ordering all these things, then there's no way they could be the same cost. No way, right? Special access charges, no special. We can keep going on and on and on. Gutter guards, this one, the drip edge is, the gutter is nailed through the drip edge. We have the detach reset. Give me a break. We can't do that. The benefit and the advantage we do have, however, is that our subs tend to only charge us a flat fee per square, no matter what. Hey, so brother, I got to take it all the way down to the deck. That's required by law, meaning the old felt has to go, okay? Like, oh no, Chad, no, boss. We keep the old felt in place because that's more protection and it's more of an R value. Oh, but it's illegal, so we're going to go ahead and take that off. Also, we want to see the deck, because we have a strategy for the deck, right? But that's illegal. We have to take it off. Well, how's it illegal? Well, the building code requires we take it all the way down to the deck. That's code. I'll prove it to you here in a bit. Even here, it's required by code, okay? So it has to go down to the deck. But also, it's insurance fraud, and I don't want to commit insurance fraud. Insurance fraud, yeah, because if you're billing the insurance company saying that you're removing the shingles and felt, and you're not removing the felt, technically you are lying to the insurance company, which is a felony. You know what I mean? So did I convince you yet? We're definitely going all the way down to the deck, Yeah.
So there are companies that don't remove the felt?
Oh, dude, it's absolutely just tragic, man. It's disgusting.
How does that even work for the shovel?
Take the nails off, and back before then, you had butt caps. They just nail the felt down.
I've had many people in these events tell me it's better protection, Chad.
I would be like,
There's that too.
Yeah, you can't do layovers anymore either. That's outlawed. Okay, so, the time is money, right? But, no, the subs, the vents. What about those? Can you do all those for me too? Do you have a menu of prices? What do you charge me, Mr. Sub? Oh, no, we can do all that, boss. No matter what's on there, you replace it for me? Yeah. Oh, beautiful. You know what I mean? Let me give you another $10 per square because I don't want to screw this relationship up. I'm loving this. So in other words, you can usually get flat fees to do everything from your subs, but on the insurance, you're charging per item. So with the clients, I'm usually telling them, there's no problem with the prices. It's just that what I see is that these adjusters, they have a lot on their shoulders. They do a lot, and they're missing items. And so I have to just get the extra items they're missing, round up those items, figure out what they are, and I have to photograph them because I have to prove it, okay? And then I put them into my estimate. And the good news about State Farm, who you have, they're pretty easy to work with. Once I do all of that, they're pretty reasonable, and I actually can't stand State Farm guys. I used to love them. They used to be the Cadillac. Right now, they're just like a bunch of freaking robots, and it's like you got to deal with machines. And I will work with the machines. I'll go with the flow, I have a strategy for machines, one of which is like, I never deal with the field adjuster. Let them go on. Once they've made payment, that usually means that they're paid, okay? The adjuster gets paid when payment is issued. So like once they're paid, then they're on to something else. They don't care. If you call them, they're gonna be like, I don't even know which one you're talking about. That was forever ago, right? And so if you are gonna submit an estimate to State Farm, don't call that guy. Don't send anything to him. Let them go on with their life. And especially do not file a supplement or send an estimate into State Farm, because the alternative to sending it to him would be to send it to the inside of State Farm, like State Farm Fire Claims at statefarm.com, like inside. If it's Liberty Mutual, CCU at Liberty Mutual, right? But if you are going to send it inside to them, like don't do it until that first claim payment has been issued. Why? You might be messing because it'll get kicked back to that original adjuster, and now you're messing with his money. He's not getting paid, right? So he's like, irate, and he's definitely not approving any of your stuff. So you have to let him get paid and get rid of it. Now you're on to the inside, right? And so like go for it.
What's the timeline on that?
About 7 to 14 business days. Good question. But listen, when the payment is received, it's done. You see what I mean? Then you can move on. So, but I'm letting them know that one of the things, if it's State Farm and they have State Farm, think of it this way. What if I had to go to court for something and I need to hire an attorney and he says, who's the judge? And I tell him the judge, he's like, oh man, that's a hanging judge. I might not want to hire that attorney. You know what I mean? And so like if they have State Farm, I don't want to say, oh my gosh, you got State Farm. They might not want to hire me because they're like, I don't know, this guy doesn't seem like he can really get stuff done in State Farm. Versus that, instead of that, I'm like, oh, State Farm? Okay, good deal. Because State Farm, I deal with them a lot. I know exactly how to deal with them. The thing I deal with the most with them is that they miss the items. It's not that their prices are wrong, but I have found that once I find those items and prove it to take the photos, right? It's a real simple process, right? And then they're like, okay, sounds good. What does that mean? That means there is now a need for me to do a detailed inspection. I have to inspect every room, closet, hallway. You see what I mean? I've already laid the groundwork for that. But so I want to tell them those are the things I want to do, and I actually work for the total amount of their approved amount. Right? That's what I work off of. My price, I can already tell you before I come out. And before I come out and put my hand on my tape measure, I can tell you my price is the total approved replacement cost value. It's just that I don't look at whatever price you have now as being that amount. Because I know for a fact, without even looking at it, it's missing items. So we have to first figure out what those items are and get those approved, and then now we have a new RCV amount. You see what I mean? But the 5 questions to ask, okay? So yeah.
I assume that you're getting some kind of signed contract before
I am.
all that work?
Oh yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question, right? Because let me just tell you, I would never
Giving them the ammo to take it to somebody else who's going to undercut you.
Yes. Watch this. The other day I had a guy in one of the events and his mom, great couple people. They were family business from the 60s. They came from retail and got into the insurance side of things a couple years back. And they've been taking some L's, but they've been getting some wins also, right? And they lost $1 million deal that they went and got the approval and all this other stuff, and they ended up hiring some other guy for $300,000, right? And I literally, I asked him a real simple question that I didn't think of right away. I was trying to figure out what happened, what went wrong, right? And then I asked him a question, well, did you have it signed? No, they didn't have it signed. I physically fell on the floor in the event. Like I fell on the floor, just to demonstrate how shocked I was, right? I would never, ever, 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 to continue where I was saying back there, ever, 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 never, never, ever, ever, in case I'm not clear, ever, ever go to an insurance adjuster appointment unless I had a signed contract from the client. Okay, so I'm not going to go help them and go meet with their adjuster and help them get coverage and help their adjuster get in line and then sign a contract with them of some sort. I am never, ever, 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 never, never, ever, never, never, never going to give them a copy of my Xactimate estimate unless they've already signed with me. If they want to see it, because some people on the phone, they're like, well, I can let you come out for an estimate, but are you going to give me an estimate? Everybody that comes out, they always want my paperwork from me, right? I'm willing to do an estimate if that's what it's going to take, okay? And I'll pick up my laptop and hand it to them and let them hold it and roll around with it for 4 hours if they want to, but they don't get a copy of it until they sign my contract. Why is that, Chad? Well, good question, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. It's just company policy, to be quite honest with you. And it's because, that Xactimate estimate is not the contract. That is nothing more than a tool that is utilized that will help to unlock the proper amounts of the claim, right? And it's really, quite frankly, proprietary information. I know you're not like that, like people would use that for, our proprietary. But, we will give you the estimate, but we just want to be the guy that gets to do the job. That's fair enough, right? And we'll let you see it, so we're not hiding anything from you. I want you to become familiar with it. And once you sign with it, it's yours. And by the way, one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, like my inspection here today, everything I'm doing is free, no obligation, right? But the best piece of advice I can give you is when the adjuster does come, make sure you have a contractor hired and they're with you. Like I'll put that out there, like you should have somebody hired already. Like if the adjuster hasn't come yet, definitely you want to have them hired, and also make sure that they specialize with insurance restoration. Also make sure that they use Xactimate. Make sure that they inspect every room, closet, hallway. You gotta lay out the things that they can't measure, nobody else can really measure up with you. Make sure that they do a detailed inspection, right? Okay, the 5 questions that you got to ask them, right? I know you've already asked them about their name and all that stuff. I get that on the lead form, maybe. You've already asked them about a basic summary of the damages. But more than that, beyond that, now I want to know, okay, well, have you already notified the insurance company? It's a real simple question, right? And really, you could say, have you already filed a claim? But I choose not to word it that way. I'd rather be less, more informal, right? And I just say, hey, have you already notified the insurance company? And whatever the answer to that is, will tell you whether or not they filed a claim, right? And then number 2, okay, great. And have they already sent someone out? So that tells you whether or not, yeah, they came out. That tells you the adjuster was there, inspected it already, right? More than likely. There are exceptions to the rule, but more than likely. And it also tells you, maybe they say, nope, but they're coming next Tuesday. Then you got to get out there before Tuesday, complete your process, get them signed, so you can be there with that first adjuster, right? But you're not going until they're signed, so you have to complete your process first, right? But that'll give you that piece of information right away, so you're gonna have to schedule this right away if possible. So, and number 3, so the first question, have you already notified the insurance company, and have they already sent someone out, and what'd they say? That's another way of saying, did they approve the claim? What all did they approve, right? Well, and what'd they say? Oh, they said I need a new roof. Or they said I didn't have any damage. They said this was old and, due to neglect or whatever they came up with, right? Or they said, I need a new roof. And oh yeah, is that all they said? Yeah, well, they had some other stuff on their fencing. So, okay, great. Did you have any interior damage? You know what I mean? You could build on it from there. you might word it, did you have any interior damage? But really, you came right after what did they say? And what did they say about you know what I mean? But I'm not going to get, I don't need to know everything before I go out there. Also, I don't need the insurance paperwork, okay? I do need it before they sign, don't get me wrong, okay? But I'm not going to be the guy that says, I'm not going to do anything until I see your paperwork. That's for the guy that's going to do everything for the amount on the paperwork. And that's at least what they're thinking, you know? That's the way it comes across. People don't understand. You got to think. You're thinking they're shady? They're not always shady. It's just they're trying to be savvy business consumers like you and me. They're trying to find somebody to get a good deal. They think they have to find somebody for that amount or lower. See, they're not trying to put money in their pocket necessarily, but they think, hey, if I end up with money at the end of it, great. It's like an auto repair deal. It's not. It's so different, right? And you cannot expect them to know that. They've not done this before, typically. And if they have, maybe only once, maybe twice. If they did, that was back then. Things have changed. You know what I mean? Like you have to back up from 30,000 feet and realize they've never done this before. You got to break it down for them. And if they've already been exposed to the other yahoos that you're competing with, it's like promising them to send them to freaking Hawaii, you know, much less waiving their deductible. You know what I mean? Like you got to understand who you're dealing with here. So I don't need their paperwork. I understand that they have been through that and they feel like, you know, they feel a little bit maybe even intimidated by that. But I have a way for them to not only give me their paperwork, but like shove it in my face and beg me to take it. I'm seriously, you'll see in a minute. But I don't need it from them, okay? So like so I want to know though, like, okay, have you already notified the insurance company and have they already sent someone out and what they say, right? And naturally right from there, and who is your insurance company? That way I can start to say, you know, about with State Farm, blah, 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 blah. And I know how State Farm works. I've dealt with them before. So maybe before I even go out, that impacts my strategy, right? That's important, okay? And then the fifth question really is, and it's kind of a little bit unrelated, but it's also, I want to make sure they're serious, you know? And when are you looking to get the project completed? I always like to ask that because they say, you know, oh, you know what? You go through all that process and spend all day inspecting, do 200-300 photos, only to find out that they're not even looking to do this till next year. They're just getting ideas, you know what I mean? I mean, call me next year then, bum. I got to move forward. You know what I mean? Like, you got to understand, like, your posture is like, you know, I'm moving forward. I'm a train that always moves forward. I'm not going to stop really for you. I'm definitely not going back for you, you know, but because I'm successful. People are always trying to catch up with me. You know what I mean? So I'm not desperate for your business. I have to keep my ways of doing things at a high level, regardless of what you think. And I'm not going to sacrifice my standards for you, your mother, or anybody else. You know what I mean? I'm just not doing it. I'm doing things and also, so like, I'm establishing myself right from the get-go as the expert, as the authority. And I promise you, the only way to really do that is to be open, to open the hood, and to really just like educate them on everything. And one of the ways to segue into that is ask them questions about everything. It starts with the questions. Rather than coming in and being the talkative, I know everything, just shut it and listen. People love to talk, right? But just ask the right questions. Through the questions, they will know for sure you know what you're talking about. Like you're the expert in this matter, you know what I mean? And so like that, I want to make sure that I've gone through that process with them before I even go out. But I'm going through those 5 questions, and then after I've asked them the questions, then I can say, hey, you know, I just want to say, you probably want me to come out and give you a price. And that's because most people have the idea that you have to find somebody for the right price. But most of these items are missing. You know, there's a lot of code related, like law required items that are most of them, almost 10 out of 10, to be honest, with State Farm. Not to knock State Farm because they're great. They're just in a hurry, and they miss these items 10 out of 10. And I know you don't want that because I know you want to comply with the law. So my process, I have to come out and do a bunch of photos and inspect everything and find those so that I can prove it. Now, the thing I'll do for you, like, I'll give you a free consultation. I'll come out and do that inspection, inspect your entire property for 100% for free. I'll take at least 200 to 300 photos. Anybody here use drones? Drones? Awesome. Some people never raise their hand. Drones are great. I mean, they're I've had like tile roofs bought with hairline fractures. that people say it was the drone footage that did it with my supervisor, many times. I don't have to walk on slate or wood shake or tile or metal roofing with the drones. It's really good stuff. The drone's 4K in the whole frame, so everything in the frame is in focus. Whereas if I'm using that camera and I videotape something, part of it's in focus, the rest of it has blurry. So I actually like to do those pictures in the beginning. That picture right there is with my drone, and I'm doing all my elevation shots with my drone, but I did it on video and went back and did screen grabs from the video, like screenshots, which you don't have to, you could take photos, but I find that I could see it better later after it's been processed on the 4K. I'm a nut about it now. Where I started out with my smartphone, didn't know anything about video. Now I'm crazy about it. So the drones are great. So I want to let them know I plan to do the drone, 200 to 300 photos, and all the footage from that is theirs. I'll give it to them, like on a Google Drive folder link, no charge. So and I'll give you my best strategy based on my experience. I'll analyze everything and I'll come up with the best strategy for you. How to deal with that deductible, how to interpret this depreciation. You see what I mean? Let's customize our plan for the client for free. But let's not give them a free freaking Xactimate estimate or go out to the adjuster. You know what I mean? That's a lot right there. Hours and hours spent for free for somebody. And all that footage and all the work that it takes to process and get them uploaded and wait for them to upload. And you know what I mean? If you've ever done that, it's not like it doesn't take 2 seconds, So my skill, my time, because of how much I value that time, I feel like that's a big service that I'm doing for free right in the very beginning. So that's what I'm giving to them. They want a free estimate. I'm giving you something so much better, man. And I'll even do the estimate if I need to, but they don't get to keep it, So that my free estimates, think about what that is in comparison to what you'll see when you see my estimate. It's much more valuable, right? But I'm willing to do all that, and I'm willing to, so I can show you what those missing items are, all right? That's a go all day long, right? And when you complete a process like mine, like I said, your closing ratios should be, if you qualified them correctly, 80 to 90%. So the chance of you going out to waste your time on that, it's there, but it's a small percentage. The win ratio is so high with anybody you wasted your time. And for that reason, I would say always just love the one you're with. Cancel all other calls. If you have to reschedule something, go ahead. Just stay there with that client, My whole purpose of going into this, when you show up, okay? The way I like to show up for something like that, especially for an adjuster appointment, any kind of inspection, that camera back there is what I use. Not with all the gadgets on top of it, but the camera, the camera wrapped around my neck, hanging from my neck. There's a reason for that. I love the camera. Don't get me wrong, I do a lot of video, that's why I have the camera. But I like the size of it to use at a regular inspection because it's so big, okay? So think about this. When you think about these adjusters, they show up these days, they're kind of high tech, aren't they? They have all these little gadgets and big tool belts, and they're a little too clean. You know what I mean? They show that their fingernails are clean, they're not doing anything to get dirty. All their clothes are clean, but they have all this fancy stuff, and they got this little digital camera, a little flat Kodak, little bags and backpacks and things. Some of them have drones now, right? Little laser measuring tools, right? Hold on, I got to change my shoes so I can put my little brand new fancy little cougar paws on, so I can climb this roof. I got to stay safe. Hold on, I got to latch myself to the ridge, they're getting pretty fancy nowadays. Sometimes they do the ladder assist. They have these little virtual inspections going these days. I get it. But so they're kind of high tech. Now I want to show up more high tech than them. I want to show up, it's all about, forgive me with a lady in the room, but it's all about mine is bigger than yours is. You know what I mean? That's the reason for the camera, right? I'm everything I do is more high tech, more impressive, more professional, better than any adjuster that I'm ever going to come in contact with. As soon as they see me, they know, uh-oh. You know what I mean? What the hell's going on here? They don't know what hit them. But I'm not at all a big shot. I'm humble. Very professional, respectful, quiet spoken, and I listen more than I talk. The reason is because my job is to perform all repairs that are prescribed by him. So why am I going to go there trying to tell them what? Do I get there and give them an estimate? No, because I have to find out what it is that's being approved first to even write an estimate on. Does that make sense? So like when I show up with a client, it's usually I'm showing up with like, a big backpack like this Canon bag, and I've got it right here, and then I got this right here, and then I got another bag that I'm holding, and I got like my drone case, right? Like I come up, I have all this like tool belt. I said I inspect the water spots with a little mini mag light, but I still have the big mag light hanging just for the effect, all this stuff, tape measure, I gotta like squeeze in through the door so I don't clang into the door and stuff, like it's a mess, But I'm saying, like I have to set everything down just to shake hands with the client, It's just, there's just who else is gonna show up like that? I mean, think special forces, with the music playing in your head, you know what I mean? Like that's the way I like to think of it, like just change it up entirely for these people, right? Like I'm an assassin. I'm here to kill, you know what I mean? And so like with the client, I'm very, respectful and kind, and I want to just ask them lots of questions. I wouldn't even get into anything like that about the job or anything like that. When you first get somewhere, if an AC guy came to my house and I knew he was coming, I'd come to the door and I'd be like, right this way. But with a client, I would rather, stop all of that. It's awkward, but before we go, Mr. Jones, I brought this packet of information with me. I kind of want to give you a brief summary of what's in here if I could. I'm going to leave it with you. Is there somewhere we could sit down inside for 3 to 5 minutes? Just take a few minutes to go through. You know what I mean? And why is that? Because if we were ever going to close the client, where's that going to take place at? Kitchen table. That's usually the biggest answer, or the living room maybe, right? Usually in the kitchen table, if we can make it happen at the kitchen table. That's the best place to close someone. And so if that's where we're going to close them, if we can get there now, there's a good chance we can get right back there. And if we told them on the phone that we need to inspect every room, closet, and hallway, chances are, they'll, if we didn't go there, they would say, hey, where do you want to start, inside or out? They know we have to go inside. They're expecting us, you know what I mean? So that's what I would do, is I'd go and just try to build rapport first. How you build rapport, like make a friend. How you build rapport first 5 to 7 minutes. I learned that with Cutco, by the way. Very, very effective, is to ask questions about what? About themselves, because they like to talk about themselves more than any other subject. The best way to get them talking about themselves is to ask them questions about themselves, not about the construction, but like, if they have a muscle car in the driveway and you don't like muscle cars, don't ask them about the muscle car. Like keep it genuine and authentic. That's my best advice. Keep it something that you're genuinely interested in so that you can connect with these people. Like if your kid plays t-ball and you see a picture of their kid playing you know what I mean? That would be a natural segue to ask them questions about, oh man, does your kid play? Like how long, how old, and et cetera, et cetera. It's an easy way. If you can't think of anything to ask them about themselves, ask them, how long have you lived here? How long have you been in this building, right? For commercial clients, right? How long have you lived here? I mean, how old is the, that can lead into how old is the roof and how, where it's into being relevant to what you're even talking about, right? But I would want to sit down with them first and go through my, just a little packet of information with like, here's my contact info on the front. This page is my bells and whistles page, like, because you have like, I'm a master certified elite installer and all this other stuff. Like, I'm not going to go into this because I don't want to show it off, but it actually is amazing. But I kind of call this my bells and whistles page, right? But it's up to you. You're going to have a homework assignment, because when we're done with here, we're going to get up and do a walkthrough together. And then I'm going to go off on my own, take photos and fly my drone and get up into your attic. That'll be my homework assignment. I mean, your homework assignment is to go check me out. Check all this stuff out, right? Here's my BBB page, if it's good. Here's my insurance page. Here's my references. Contact these people. At the end, I'd put my contract paperwork at the very end and explain every item of it. Not all filled out, but the stuff like to show them like, hey, there's not going to be any like special revealing secret close where I like reveal some price to you, where at some special moment where I uncover something and say, there's the price, and I point to some number. It's not going to be like that. I can tell you what the price is now. It's the total approved replacement cost value. What does that mean? Then you go in to educate them. How can you educate them? I would show them a copy of a real, like I said earlier, a real original estimate, a copy of an estimate that you wrote for that job, and a copy of the final revised copy. If you need these, you can get them from my documents. You know what I mean? I'll help you with this. But like before, during, after. That's the best way to show them, like we were going through earlier, here's some things that you don't notice right away. It looks like your adjuster did a really good job, but here's things that they commonly will miss, right? And like chimney flashing, for example, is required, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Let me explain to you why, okay? By the way, on a roof, everything on that roof, everything has to be replaced. I'm just saying. Like there's some exceptions, like if it's a skylight, maybe the skylight doesn't need replaced, but all the trim does, you know, like all the pipe jacks have to be replaced, all the vents have to be replaced, all the valley metal has to be replaced, all the chimney flashing has to be replaced, all the step flashing, replaced, sidewall flashing, replaced, flashing, replaced, flashing has to be replaced. You know what I mean? Like, and here's why. All vents, outlets, edgings, flashings that are part of the roof assembly must be replaced, like shall be replaced, where rusted, damaged, or deteriorated. That's a building code. I'll get into it here in a little bit. But that's a building code. And they're like, oh, no, we didn't see any damage on there. No, it's damage, trust me. Oh, no, we only saw 2 pipe jacks that had hail damage. Well, the code doesn't say anything about hail damage. Doesn't say anything about water damage or weather damage or fire damage. It says damage. Rusted, damaged, or deteriorated. Rusted's easy, deteriorated can be easy, but damaged. And you're thinking, okay, because it's going to be damaged during the tear off? No. It may be. If you need that, great. But we don't need that.
Well, can anybody tear off?
How is it installed? With what? Nails. So it's already damaged. The hole in it is damaged. And if you take a picture of that, along with that code, 100%, it's done, it's approved, end of story, right? We'll just make it nice and easy. So that means we got to get the picture of it though, right? We have to get the code, we got to get the picture. We're going to go into the code game after this segment, and we'll explain how to do all that, right? But it's if you can educate your client about that, right, that the law requires that and why, and instead of hiding it and keeping it secret to yourself, but open the hood and show them why we have to have this in the estimate. Now I ask you, Mr. Jones, should we put it in the estimate or shouldn't we? You know what I mean? Like they're gonna want, there should be a light bulb that goes off at some point in time where they're like, you know, oh, I get it. And they're like, hey, come look at this and come look at that. You see, not because they're getting it. They're like, okay, we don't want him to give us the cheapest price. We want to go find all the right damage. We want him to get everything up, get it up. There comes a moment in time, if you've done your job right, where the client, they want you to get it up. Okay? That's where you've taken price out of the equation. That's why you guys are going to love this compared to retail. You know what I mean? Because you're going to literally learn to take price out of the equation. It doesn't even exist anymore. Think about that. Price is everything in everything. You know what I mean? Everything we do. Everything. This event. I've chose this place. I mean, if it was too expensive, I wouldn't have had it here. We would have done it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like price is in everything. So like, you know, we're taking price all the way out of the equation. All that's left that stands in our way is the deductible. And I already showed you how to deal with that most of the time. While we're on this topic, it's going to be for him and for all future commercial aspirers, okay? But here's the commercial nugget, all right? Flat roof, commercial flat roof. Most of the time you're going to find in these situations, the flat roof is going to have all kinds of other layers. Like 7 or 8 out of 10 times, that's what you're going to see. You know, it's old something. There's going to be all this other stuff under whatever you're seeing. Insurance company might have already been there, and they may say, modified bitumen, remove and replace this many squares, right? But remember, we got to go all the way down to the deck. So, you know, you're going to look under there, and you're going to see there's tar and gravel, and there's other modified bitumen and built up, and all other systems. There might be spray foam. Might be spray foam probably on top of everything, and underneath that is, you know, so like when they approve that, whatever it is that's on the top layer, you need to do a core test, right? And so there's core testing tools where you kind of just get, it looks like a pipe, and you pull it out and it just gives you like a circle with these little discs of each layer. I don't like those as much. I'd rather take a big knife and cut a big 10 by 10 square, okay? And just pull this sucker all the way up. and let's document and photograph at each layer and photograph the layer in the hand to show what it is at each point, right? But we want to pull everything up and see. Let's recreate and see what all is there all the way down the deck. And what kind of deck is it? Is it metal? Is it wood? What is it? Is it, and it's probably bad. Where is it bad? If it's bad, great. So we can expose it. Now we got to add ISO board. We got to get the R value up, however many sheets of ISO board to get it back, right? And so most people in the commercial, all flashing, parapet wall flashing might not be there. It's got to be there. We got to add it, okay? Flash the cap flashing on the parapet wall, right? Flashing around everything, all the curbs, detach reset AC units. By the way, drainage, proper drainage is required. Is there even drainage there? We may have to add a whole new drainage system, scuppers and everything else. You know what I mean? There's big money in commercial roofing. I can't express to you enough. It's like, hey, and how many jobs residential is it going to take to close $1 million in revenue? 20 to 50? How many commercial jobs? Right, I mean, how many adjusters? How many mortgage companies? How many different clients? You know what I mean? Like, this is just common, basic sense, Unless you like houses and like homeowners, which actually it's easier to close commercial clients. It's not their personal house. They're not so emotionally involved. They're so much easier to deal with, I mean, because you got it, right? And good for you. Now, the problem with commercial is they have a lot more exclusions, you have more traps, you know what I mean? Deductibles tend to be higher. I mean, somebody might have a $25,000 or $50,000 deductible, okay? Now, I just told you how to deal with it though, you just didn't see it yet. The insurance company has to pay you first to remove every single layer, that's a given, okay? But what do they owe to go back with? Anybody answer that question? Like if I find 5 layers there, what do you think they owe to go back with?
Top layer, right?
Huh?
Info back with the same amount. Every layer?
I'm getting a little bit of both, right? Every layer.
It depends on building codes. I mean, what?
It does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does, brother. You're right, and I love you for it. You know what I mean? Because he's right, and you're right. Because you can only go back. But the question that wasn't what are you going to go back with. The question was what do they owe for?
Pay to go back.
So like they owe to go back with what is incurred, which is why the answer is kind of one and the same. But so they only owe the contractor a certain amount.
We charge them per inch.
Per inch. Well, so they owe to go back what is incurred. Building code will let you go back with one system. Unless it's spray foam, they're allowed to go spray foam. You're allowed to go metal on top of certain things, but not if it's water saturated. Not if any part of it's water saturated. Not allowed to do that. Everything's got to come out. Now, but you're only allowed to go with one roofing system. So they're not going to let you go back with tar and gravel and mod bit, right? So you're probably going back with freaking TPO or Duralast, more than likely. You know what I mean? But so you're only probably going back with ISO, which will be a code upgrade, and then maybe TPO, or let's say it is mod bit. You're just going to go with modified bit, whatever was there on that top layer. That's what you're going to go back with, okay? They owe you full RCV to go back with all that, to remove every layer, and then to replace that layer and the code upgrades. However, they owe the client, the policyholder, for what they had before, up to the ACV value, because they're not going back with any, but they owe them the value of the property they owned at the time. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? You know what I mean?
4 layers of AC.
That's right, my brother.
Wow.
Plus the full RCV of the actual layer you go back. Plus the ISO. Plus the new deck. Oh my goodness. What's under the deck? What's under the deck?